This meeting is being recorded.
All right, good morning, everyone, and I am honored to be here with you this morning from the UWI St. Augustine campus, from the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. My name is Leroy Hill, and I'm the director for Settle. With me today are two of my colleagues, Mr. Mark Garcia, who is our research officer, and Mr. Randy Duku. They will be monitoring the chat but also working along with me. So we want to say welcome and good morning. We recognize we only have 1 hour, and this is really an awesome responsibility that we hold dearly to give back as our social responsibility from a university standpoint. And so I want to thank you for the opportunity for listening, first of all, listening here for the next hour. I would want to invite your continued participation through the chat, so feel free to interject, ask questions as we go along. We want this to be interactive, and I want to say thank you for again for the opportunity for being here. So the discussion that we're focusing on is really a discussion on how we respond to AI as a disruptor. All right. For today's session, we recognize that it's the focus primarily is about building awareness. It's about deepening your personal and responsibility towards the use of AI as a leader, and as well as addressing real world applications and how it can be used from that standpoint. All right, I'd perhaps want to start with this as a leader of learning. I'd really want for us to reflect for a moment. How would you, as a leader of learning, responded to the following disruptions? And these were all these were disruptions in education. The World Wide Web, the smartphone, the pandemic. We recognize that these were disruptions in education. So one or two persons can hold the mic, can take the mic, and ask how did you or how would you have responded as a leader of learning. One or two persons can volunteer. That'll be great. That'll be great. Who wants to be first? Just go ahead. You can go ahead and just hold the mic. That's okay. How would you respond? Any takers? Any takers? Okay, Anu Turi is saying, take the bull by the horn. Annie, you want to go ahead and hold your mic? Hold the mic. Tirari, Anu, go ahead. How would you responded to this as a disruptor? The pandemic, for example. All right, we'll continue. We'll continue. I'm hoping that what we'll want to do is just to set a quick definition of us as leaders of learning. And I like what Defoe and Mazono in 2011 and Murphy and his colleagues mentioned, that effective leaders of learning focus on continuous. So we really set the stage continuous collaborative teacher improvement, the whole idea of being flexible in their style of leadership according to the environment, according to the elements that they notice from the students and the employees and so forth. Good morning, Elizabeth. Establish and sustain professional learning communities, and that's an important part. They are adaptable, they are capable workers who have high stability in even high anxiety situation. Does this define us here? Promote the use of evidence-based practice. Which of these you think is a priority for you? Which of these is a priority for you? Which is your number one? Which of these would be your number one? In the chat, you can give that one. I want you to be interactive. So in the chat, if you can indicate which of these would be your number one priority as a leader of learning. Anyone in the chat, you can indicate that, please. Any takers? Okay, evidence-based practice. Thank you, Anu. Okay, change. Yeah, I love that one. Change the tactics. Five. Okay, Javed. So I didn't recognize you there, Javed. Good morning. Mr. Mohammed is also from our team, so thank you for joining. He's actually on anyway, but thank you for joining. So number two, change the tactics. Okay, very good. Adaptability, very good. Seeing Daverinda, seeing that. Sally number two, number four, number four. So we do see that we recognize ourselves in this whole definition of leaders of learning. I want to go back to the whole idea of disruption, and AI as a disruption is actually not something new. It is actually not something new. It is not something new. The idea of AI has been with us for a while. It has been with us for a while. I'm trying to position, thank you, Martisa. I'm trying to position our understanding in that the terminology actually began way back in 1955. And so it is clear that this idea of artificial intelligence as a term has been around for a while, and that the actual usage in technology has been seen in various advancement. Any of you can recognize any of these tools here? Any of you recognize these tools here? Um, Great, thank you so much. Any of these tools, any of you recognize the Siri? You recognize Siri, you recognize 2011 Alexa. Yes, I use Alexa. 2014. So we recognize that AI has been with us. But I think let's come to an understanding what AI actually is. All right. And for many of us, the idea of artificial intelligence actually may be seen as a branch of computing or computer science. It certainly is more commonly now used. The last aspect here is the capability of a machine to emulate intelligent human intelligence, such as visual, such as speech, such as decision making, and language translation. So we see that, and that's important for us to acknowledge, because certainly the perception here is that artificial intelligent machines are given that relevance in being able to do things that are human-like, um, and that includes various means of doing that. But when it comes to artificial intelligence, the I like this. You have reactive, they can be reactive, they can be predictive, and they can be generative. So the first two were quite what we are accustomed to, and until recently, the idea of generative AI in 20 in early 20s, 20 we're looking at 2020, 2017, advancement of Google, a particular transformer technology, gave advancements to the use of a large language module, which is a module that allows persons, the artificial intelligence or machines, to actually learn and predict or generate new things. So the idea of generative AI actually became more popular in recent time with the advancement of ChatGPT, as we saw recently being released. So that is perhaps what is providing a bit of a turn up or scare for many of us, is that the generative AI aspect, that it provides an opportunity for us to see artificial intelligence where algorithms create new forms of content that is text, images, audio, and even more. And so we do see the various forms of, we generating new forms of content. And this is a different level, a different sort of thing, because here we may be thinking that it's something new, but it is certainly something recent that provides the opportunity for us to really rethink and be careful and creative at the same time. Okay, so we recognize that generative AI is here. It's here in so many different ways. We recognize that there are so many different tools being advanced. In recent, we said the ChatGPT, we have Google Bard, we have Claude, and we have Bing, and we'll maybe just explore one or two of them today in terms of a chatbot to see how used in from that setting. Okay, so we do have a wide range of tools that use AI and use generative AI to be more specific. And so it's important for us to see that as leaders of learning, it is our role to understand how these are used in different settings. Um, so I know the most popular one is ChatGPT. The most popular one is ChatGPT. And for ChatGPT, we see it as a generative pre-trained transformer. Again, Google came up with that technology that you have the transformer and you can train it, where you use the machine learning to actually train it how to connect, to make and create new forms of content or new, so that combination of that many billions of combination, by the way, that they can create based on the query that you give it. All right. We've received the presentation and recording. Yes, you will, and you certainly you will receive it. All right. So certainly, ChatGPT is one of the most popular ones, but there are others. There are others. We do recognize, and there are others in terms of Bard AI, ChatGPT, and Bing. So these are the three that I will focus on because those are three popular ones, and there are others. I will want to be clear about this. The intention of these companies are not necessarily to provide you with free service. Their intention is to really make this a commercial product. It's about, and this is where we really want to look and see how best we as leaders of learning can use this to our advantage and be careful with how we use it. And so it's important we see it from that standpoint. All right, so I really did a query and asked ChatGPT to give me an idea of which one I could trust more in terms of comparison, and certainly Bing Chat, it hallucinates less. That's a word that has come out recently a lot. Hallucination mean that the AI is making things up, and so we do see that coming out quite clear. And we do recognize that industries are not waiting. They are not waiting. They are moving ahead. They are using AI in so many different ways. They are using it in transport, in entertainment, in finance, and healthcare. So the question is, are we behind in education? And how, as educators, we can also use AI. And in the education context, we do have the affordability of using AI in teaching and learning. We have the idea of teaching assistant. And this is nothing new. We have the idea of teaching assistant. We have the idea of tutoring. You can actually use ChatGPT. We have one example. I'm going to give you a link in a while of ChatGPT being used as a teaching assistant or a teaching tutor. School administration, there are many things that you do routinely within the education sector that can be seen from that standpoint. A chatbot, having institutional your web pages. And I know that in the department, Ministry of Education, if you go on your website, you will see something say let's chat. Sometimes you are chatting with a bot, but that is not really most of it generative AI. It's usually just some predefined questions and answers, sorry, that are there for you to respond to. And so the whole idea of curriculum design, this is a new frontier of what we're using generative AI and lesson plans and so forth. And so I really want to be critical about this because while we recognize its use in education, we also want to acknowledge the benefits are many. And when it comes to AI, we look at those various benefits. And one of the key things that many persons are using it because it's reducing the time that they're spending on doing routine things. And and certainly we want to recognize that. The whole idea of using analytics and predictive analytics that will be able to give us indication of students who are failing, students who need support. And so these are definitely some things that we can look at. The whole idea of reduced workload for instructors, and so they can spend their time more importantly and more creatively in other ways, enhancing student feedback and your assessment process. I see my colleagues saying very much behind adaptive. I think one of the cool things about AI is the whole idea of making learning personalized. And that it's not just a cookie cutter model that we are presenting learning to everyone the same way. And the advancement more is to really focus more on universal design for learning, that we would create multiple pathways, multiple means of engagement, multiple means of representation. And AI provides us with that opportunity to do that. And it is important for us to see as educators that we are supporting our learners, our differently abled learners in so many different ways. It is an awesome task. It is an awesome task. We recognize that. But at the same time, we recognize through the use of technology, through the use of artificial intelligence, we can make this even much more easier and used from that standpoint. And so it's important for us to see, with recognizing both the advantages, the benefits. We recognize that there are certain disadvantages that we know. We have to be careful of those inaccuracies, especially in the hallucination part and the ethics. I think this is key. This is key. When we really want to look at the whole idea of using AI in assessments, we have to be very careful. And I think that carefulness brings to fore you as the person of agency, recognizing that even if you use AI, that you are still in control. And I think above all, those challenges will continue to play an important role, even in the distant future. And we recognize the number one challenge here on the list is ethics. Ethics will and continue to remain one of those key things. With the use of artificial intelligence in education, in other industries, we recognize the need for us to address things like equity and access. Now, let's be clear. The information that is provided by generative AI is information that is available on the internet. Now, if on the internet we have biased information, if on the internet we have information that is just slanted in a very negative way against certain gender, certain diversity, certain groups, then that is exactly what it will give you as well. So we want to recognize and acknowledge that, and I think acknowledging that and knowing that puts you in control seat. That's to say, we would certainly recognize the challenge of equity and access. We are seeing some inroads in some white collar jobs that are being replaced by AI, and we are seeing that. And there are always the privacy concerns, and the privacy concerns in terms of putting your information in AI and it using it in a very, the companies will tell you that your data is protected. I think Bing now makes that quite apparent, but can you really trust companies if they're doing that to make money? And so you want to be careful in doing that because it's all about commercialization. It's all about making money. And certainly we want to recognize that there will be chances for them to look at it. I think early on, I think about 6 months ago, there was a request to take a pause because they recognized that, hey, this is an awesome thing, and hacking could be an issue, certainly, Heather. Hacking can be an issue, certainly. We recognize that the leaders of the AI, some leaders of the AI recognize that, hey, these things was moving much quicker than they anticipate, and there was need for regulation. So again, the regulation is being seen as something, one of those things that they're doing. Some of them have self-regulated, have put certain, yes, I see a lot of cyber threats, persons being able to use AI in a very negative way to actually, so that is why the whole idea of privacy concerns, that one of the things we recommend is that you do not put your personal information in there, in whatever you do, don't do it. Just don't do it, because obviously it is a commercial enterprise, and so we recognize the need for ensuring that you are safe in using it. Again, I really love what UNESCO has done. UNESCO, and I think it is important here, researchers, teachers, learners should be aware. You should be aware that generative AI systems operate, I love this, as a black box. We don't know. We don't know. And that is consequently difficult, if not impossible, to know why particular content has been created. A lack of explanation in the outputs are generated, how the outputs are generated, to lock users in the logic defined by the parameters. So these parameters may reflect specific cultural and commercial values that may bias the content produced. And so we recognize the guide provided there. I'll put the link in the chat for these tools. You can download them from the chat. I also have for you, you can actually access this in a resource guide. I'm going to put the link of the resource guide in a while. But you can certainly access this first one here. The other one, I will go ahead and add that in as well. But certainly we see the whole idea of the digital divide, and we recognize the need for doing that. So UNESCO has gone ahead. In fact, the UNESCO ethics actually predated generative AI, which provides a very meaningful way to see that AI was a discussion even before those. So this is UNESCO's guide. You can download it. You can certainly download it and keep abreast, because it is important as leaders of learning that we control the narrative. I think controlling the narrative, understanding and controlling the narrative is important. All right, now I have some questions. I have some questions. By the way, I want to pop this question. If you can indicate in the chat yes or no, have you used any of the AI tools like ChatGPT, Bard, or Bing? Any of them? Yes or no? That's in the chat. Yes or no? I think that would be good before we go. Yes, yes, yes or no? Yes, Bing, yes. Great. Yes, yes. So we are getting more yes, and one no. I'm saying one no. So I think the idea is recognizing that AI is ubiquitous. It's all around us. It's here. It's not going away, and so dealing with it is something. But I'd like to think about this question here on the screen. Which are you most comfortable with AI assisting teachers, or your teachers within your leadership? Which are you more comfortable? And this is a list. It's not exhaustive. Okay, Theresa, you're saying also like to use to write recommendations. Very good. Good. Assessment and curriculum design. Great. Great. Assessment report writing. Excellent. Course design, Heather, thank you so much. Curriculum, Michelle. Course design, Heather. Recommendations and reports. And great, thank you. All right, let's take a pause. I want to hear a few of you. Most of you have been using it, so you said yes. So if you can, Mark is saying everyone thinking of all. Anyone thinking of all? Anyone thinking of all? That's a good question. So here's what. Can I indulge you a bit to hold the mic? I'm gonna pass the mic. I'm gonna pass the mic as a way of checking your presence. So I'm gonna send it. Anyone with name begin with A. So we have Alexia, we have Alicia, we have Andy, we have Anil, we have Anu, we have Ashley, any one of those begin with A, you can hold the mic and say how you've been using the Bing or the ChatGPT. How have you been using it? Or we can go on to the B's. Brian, Bonnie, Bernadette, Day. Feel free to unmute your mic. Go ahead. No one is taking the bite to share how you're using. Many of you have already indicated yes, you're using the tools. So can you share with your colleagues how you're using the tools? I'm sure persons have used it to create assessments. Being for assessments. Okay, great. Anu, you've been so very much active in the chat, but I really want to hear from someone how you've been using it. How you've been using it. Crystal is saying, can you give us an example? Yeah. Mr. Ashburn is here, and I have shared ChatGPT with my members, teaching staff. They have been using it in preparation lesson plans, etc. Excellent. Thank you, Crystal. Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Hill.
Morning. Leroy is fine.
Morning. Yes. I'm trying to ease your thought here. So I'm at
Thank you. Thank you so
secondary
much.
school, yes, in an admin position. So I use mainly ChatGPT, and I've used it in a variety of ways for a couple months well. So one basic way is I use it to assist me with writing letters. You know, whenever I have a letter to write, proposal, if I'm asking, because as a school, you ask for a lot of resources. So I've used ChatGPT to ask, to help me craft proposals to certain companies, to generate ideas, because we do a lot of fundraising. So to generate ideas for fundraising and other activities at school, to assist with doing my school-based management plan in terms of the action plan part, you know. So I put in the objectives and it gives me a framework. But of course, with ChatGPT, you have to be very clear. You have to give it specific instructions, and you have to be mindful that you have to always tweak it for your setting. All right. So I don't put in my school name. I don't put in anything too specific. All right. I have used it when I have a speech to do to assist with that. And most times I take it back and I still tweak it, because I find, you know, you still need the personal touch. But at the end of the day, it helps with giving you a framework for something. And that something could be anything. I needed a spreadsheet to do a particular something for the office. And you give it the headings, it generates that as well. So of course, that's just one tool, and there would be others that would be better suited for things, you know, like graphics and tables and so, but that's how I use ChatGPT.
Excellent, Crystal. And as a leader of learning, you've demonstrated that you will share with your colleagues, and you've shared with your colleagues how. And if I may, let's use one example. Let's compare the time of doing one activity using AI and not using AI. Give me one example.
Yeah, there's no comparison. Previously, because I'm always very careful, especially with a proposal. So I would have taken a good, depending on what it is, half hour, or maybe come back to it a couple times. With ChatGPT, the thing, it gives it to you in seconds, and not even a minute. And then you can spend maybe 10, 15 minutes tweaking. So that saves me easily hours of time. And the thing about it is, sometimes you don't really need to use it, but I do use it just to see what other options are there.
Yeah.
And to see sometimes how viable your own thing is. So I might write my own thing and say, chat, can you improve on it? And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
I love that. I love that. What school you're from again?
I'm at Providence Girls Catholic
Providence Girls School.
School
Thank you
in
so much. I
Belmont.
think that that's a great leader example,
Thank
and how you're using it to inform your decision. It's not. It's you are still in the driver's seat.
Yes, but I have put it out to staff. But of course, you always have to be cautious. You can use it for your lesson plan, but you as the instructor, the expert, you have to go through it a bit with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that it's targeted to your content. But I do advocate the use of it, and I tell the teachers, the students are using it. They will use it. They are going to use it. So what you have to do now is teach them how to use it in an ethical way, how to use it in a way that you are really learning how to do critical thinking, not just copying and pasting what ChatGPT gives you. So we have to really explore and interrogate how we could use this more in education, because it is there. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere.
No.
And that is exactly why, one of the reasons why we're thinking that, hey, there are some countries that actually have clear defined guidelines and strategy, AI strategy, because they recognize industry is already using it, the students are already using it, and so why can't we as well? But again, thank you so much for that. I really, really appreciate your sharing. That really made this session a little bit more interactive. All right, one of the things that we want to recognize, and I think is clear, that in the literature and in the practice of using AI is the various roles. All right, there are various roles in which AI assumes. All right, I'm seeing this is a little bit off. Make sure I put it in a little bit. And so Professor Mike Schappels, who actually did his PhD a long time ago on artificial intelligence, recognized that there are various roles. And in education in particular, I love the idea of a Socratic opponent, or even a personal tutor, or the guide on the side. You're using it, for example, a guide on the side to generate content for classes, discussion questions, advice on how you can support. Because let's face it, we spend a lot of our time. I remember spending a ton of my time preparing lesson plans, and when I could be more creative in making the classroom much more differentiated, because to do that you need a lot of effort and a lot of resources and a lot of time being creative. And so I think this is where we can, as educators, draw on those various rules in doing that. I think being clear about those various rules is an important part of understanding how we can use it. And there are some recommendations. I'll go on the recommendations now because I want to give a little time for us to really play a little bit around, so persons who are not using it can see how it's being used from that sense. And we want to look at recommendations and solutions, knowing very well that there are others who recognize that you are in control. There are various degrees of control, and I like how Molnar has put this forward in a framework where it's teacher only. Teacher has full access, teacher monitors technology, and so forth. So you do have a range of way in which it can be used. Similarly, you may want to think or rethink the whole idea of cheating and plagiarism. How would you define it? How would you, and you said it earlier on, in terms of teaching children the responsible, ethical use of AI, and how do you allow them to say, hey, you should acknowledge, hey, you should not be using it in this way, hey, you should be using it in that way. To recognize that there are certainly various ways in which we can reduce things like cheating. And I know for a fact that there are some persons who are doing much more in-person classroom things because they recognize, I don't want this to be technology mediated because I know students are going to cheat. But here's also insight that you can actually use a variety of techniques. To embrace, for example, AI to some degree. And so you are teaching them the proper use of the when you're doing that in terms of adaptive learning ways and so forth. If, for example, you guide them as to how you should develop their prompt to get responses in terms of as a tutor, and there's one of them that's provided. I'll give that to you in a while. And so it is important for us to see that being very clear in terms of reducing cheating. All right, and so there are various technologies, and I think one of the major things is really make it more applied. You can break your assignments in pieces, allow them to reflect on what the work that was done. If they didn't do it, it was copied, then obviously it's something that they have in order for them to understand, from that standpoint. And so one of the things that's promoted is the whole idea of policy. And policy enables, sometimes policy, so which of these do you see yourself aligning to? In the chat, quickly in the chat. Meanwhile, I will try and get this document that I have to share with you. In the chat, which of these in the chat, which of these do you think you are more encouraging policy? Excellent. Only one person. Look at it carefully. Encouraging mixed use. Encouraging mixed use. All right, can I ask either Istro, Phil, Ali, if you can hold the mic, and or Sandy or Andy, if you can indicate why you would use the mixed use or the particular. We have a set of shy leaders of learning here, very shy. Go ahead,
Hi,
Isaac.
good morning, everybody.
Morning.
As I said before, I haven't used the AI before, but from what I'm reading here briefly, I could see it more as I don't want to use the encouraging use policy where I am not able to better monitor the students because it says the students are responsible for their own. I want to use a mixed use where I have some sense of autonomy as well, and where I'm managing what the students are doing at the same time while they are interacting with the AI, with the technology. I don't know if I'm
Okay.
interpreting it in the correct way.
No, I mean, and that's exactly what some people will do because it's based on your values and based on what you want out of it. You will choose it. So yes, you are interpreting it in your way. Anyone else? Anyone
Hi,
else?
good day.
Hi, Heather.
Yes, I suggested mixed use policy as well. However, I think it's with a purpose of training and developing the students to a point where eventually encouraging use policy can become the norm. But in the initial stages, as we get into the use of AI and developing the right habits and responsibility among students, teachers, etc., the mixed use policy, as Sir said, would allow for still some measure of control in the use of AI in the classroom and the
Yeah.
school.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. I don't know if anyone else. And I know the easier thing for most persons and most leaders when they don't uncomfortable is perhaps the restrictive use. You've heard a lot of discussion of persons actually banning, and here's what, and I recognize that that's not the sentiment being shared here amongst your colleagues as leaders of learning, because if we think of banning, I think we are not necessarily putting ourselves in a position to be relevant. But not only that, but we are not teaching students or faculty the actual responsible and ethical use of that. And so really, I really love what the International Society for Technology Integration in Education speaks to the whole idea of really should we ban. And it says here the blanket ban on technology tools are really a good idea. It's really not a good idea because AI is becoming an integral part of everyday lives and becoming more prevalent. So imagine you banning it, it just becomes something that may not necessarily make sense. And so it's important for us to see that we are setting certain guidelines. And I think it's important setting clear guidelines to students. I think number one is to remind them that they are responsible for their own work. They are responsible. And part of the reason being is that AI can hallucinate. And AI hallucinates. Not I wouldn't want to take what the word can. AI hallucinates. It makes things up. And it makes things up because especially when, and we'll go on looking at that later on, you really want to let them know that they are in charge. They are the one, the buck stops with them, not the AI. They won't be able to blame the dog for eating their homework. They won't be able to say AI did this for me. They are responsible. Whatever tools they use, just as if they were using a calculator, if they were using a web, they are in charge. And we know AI can be unpredictable, so we certainly have to set clear guidelines to really guard against this. Again, we recommend that, prepare them saying do not share their personal or private data or what they would be uncomfortable sharing with someone else that they don't know, and just don't share it. Just don't. And I like the idea here is to encourage the use of different. So I know most of us are using ChatGPT 3 because that's free, but again, it's limited to I think 2021. Bing, if you're using Bing, actually it actually uses the the OpenAI engine or technology that allows it to actually crawl the internet immediately the live internet. All right, so it certainly is has that affordance from that stump. All right. So I think one of the leadership considerations, because it's 10:42, I really want for us to begin to think reflectively around some of the things that we can do or we ought to do, is to provide clear guidelines and support of how AI can be used. It would be good if you begin to start to think from a leadership standpoint how you're going to enable by having it something carefully scripted, so that you make that narrative clear and you're controlling the narrative, that you're not leaving it unwritten, that you're not leaving it unsaid. You want to provide that clear defined way in which AI can be used or is used in your setting. Again, recognizing that persons have to keep on learning. As educators, we recognize the sort of episodic or sporadic. Yes, I will share the PPT, Elizabeth. The sort of sporadic and episodic way of it's certainly something. And we remember early on when I started with Leaders of Learning, the idea of building communities of learning continuous. I really want to marvel what you are doing here in terms of sharing your best practices. And again, it is certainly good for us to try different models and so forth to see which works and which works better. All right. I think key takeaways that we should consider, and not just leaders of learning, but teachers should consider that to use AI with care and creativity. How can we say that it is a particular way if you have not used it to say, okay, fine, so you have to build capacity to understand. And that's important. They set policies and guidelines, as we say, review all assessments to ensure its fitness for purpose. How do you create assessments to allow students to cheat less? That's a whole different professional development session altogether. But at least you can begin to think, how can I redesign my assessments? How do I encourage my teachers to redesign my assessment to ensure that I would not say cheat proof, but at least they're prone less to cheat. And from that standpoint, and remain flexible, create guidelines, create boundaries. And I think the last one here is on prompt engineering. In fact, this is one of the trajectory and pathways that have shown some in a meaningful way. The persons of the future who will be able to harness AI effectively are those who understand what a good prompt looks like. All right. most of us, we will just tell the AI or the tool to go ahead and create a lesson plan. But no, you have to give it context. You have to give it context. And the context, part of the context, and this is research based, part of the context there is that you give it a role. Now, remember ethically, you can say you are the teacher, but no, you are in control, which means that as the person in control, it is certainly important for us to see that. So Neil, let me go ahead and create that, give you that access to that document. Let me just make sure that I have the right one. It should have given you access. Let me just pause a while to ensure it's saying that it's locked. My mistake. All right, give me a little while. Let me give you access to it. It's loading up. So I will do that. Give me a second. Okay, so let me know if you can access it now. I'll put the link again in the chat. So you should be able to access that resource guide. All right. Great. So I think this is where we really want to engender understanding around what a good prompts look like, because the internet is so vast, and if you don't give it the context, and culturally it can give you things that are not there. I like this one, and this one is actually, this is an example. It's taken from Moloch and Moloch, and this is an AI as a tutor. You could actually use it. You could actually use this, copy and paste the actual prompt. The prompt is actually in that document that you have with you right now, and this is on any topic. All right. Imagine this. You can set it. You can set it to be a tutor based on a subject area. And the way you design it, it will actually serve as that guide, a tutor, helping the students learn in a very meaningful way. So this one is in the guide. You can use it from that standpoint. All right, it's 10:47. I want to just spend a little while. I'm going to go through the document. I want to use the opportunity to just demonstrate. I know many of you are already using it, so that should not be a major thing, but I just wanted to use one or two. I will perhaps focus on using, I'll start with ChatGPT, and then I will go to using, just to show you how they differ in their responses from that standpoint. Okay, just confirm if you're seeing my screen. All right.
Seeing it.
Notice, thank you so much. You notice that it says that 3.5, the 4 point, you have to pay for it. Now, I'm not going to spend money on this because I know I can use the free version. And it does quite a bit of stuff for me, quite a bit of things for me. So let me go back to the document. I'm going to go on page of that document. If you see it, I'm going to pull one of the prompts for planning. I'm going to go to the prompt 3. All right, let's focus that you are a social studies teacher. I am given this. You notice here it gave it a context based on the framework we had previously. I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to put this in ChatGPT. All right, now this is something I know that would take me some while, but I'm going to put it in ChatGPT. All right, it says you're a teaching assistant with 15 years experience in a local grade 4, and I'm asking it to create some notes, just some brief notes. All right, so you notice it does that for me. Now, of course, I can go and validate, and one of the things about ChatGPT is that I don't know where ChatGPT got this. I really don't know. I really don't know. So that's one of the things that we know. But it creates a nice little table. I did ask it to create a table, and it did follow through. But again, we see here as an example. Are you all seeing this clear? Is this clear? Is it big enough?
Yes.
Okay, great, excellent. So you can see that it actually followed my instructions. I asked it to do that. So you can see where you are teaching assistant. I've given it a role, I'm being specific with the areas, Caribbean, grade 4, and I'm focusing on the outcome of articulate the major events. Now, I'm thinking articulate. I want this to be much more exciting. And so I did ask it also to provide an alternative way of content. And so I did tell it more creative. If I'm creating a script for a play, it's going to take me much time to really think this through and do it. And it did this in such a very quick way. Expert 1, expert 3, expert 2, you can see that. And so you can give that to students and let them role play it. And so you can see, rather than spending a lot of time, you can begin to get some creative ideas from that standpoint. Let's see how Google Bard. Google Bard. How would Google Bard respond to this? All right. We have 10 more minutes, but I just wanted to show you this quickly. I know we are pressed for time. I know you're very busy individuals. And so I want to honor the 1 hour that we said that we would have do this. I'm going to put the same prompt in there and ask it to generate. All right. Again, similarly, we saw where you can see that. And it gave you a table. All right. This table is 3 columns. Okay. 3 columns. Isn't this helpful as an advanced organizer? You can see this table being used to kind of summarize. And so it asks you to do that. It did not do the play. I asked it to the second part in terms of the second part of the notes. It did not do it. Maybe I would have to ask it. Okay, please generate the script for the video production. All right. All right, so it gives you expert 1, 2, 3. So it recognizes that. So sometimes you have to refine and so recognize expert 1. I'm Dr. This. Certainly Trinidad was a British rule, and so you can have persons assuming those. We see those from that standpoint. Oh boy, it got a little big. All right, so we do see that it created a script, but I had to prompt it to do that. So this is where we say, but you are the person in charge. Let's see how Bing would do that. Bing, and by the way, to access Bing, you go to Bing.com. One of the things here is that Bing is actually using, and I mentioned it, it actually uses the paid version of the OpenAI technology. So they are paying OpenAI to use their more, so if I go to chat, once I activate the chat, I'm actually making use of the AI module within Bing chat, Bing search engine, sorry. All right, it's taking a little while to come up, but it's worldwide with www. All right, so you do have 3 different options. The option that uses the paid version is is this more creative. All right, if you use these 2 others, then it uses an earlier version. You know, so most persons use this because it hallucinates less and it gives you more precise responses. All right, so I'm going to again paste the prompt. I've added something here. Let me see if it will go ahead. And it also gives, thank you, Mark, it also gives references as well. So we'll see the difference between Bing, Bard, and ChatGPT as tools that we can see here. You notice it gives you idea that it's searching, history experts it gives you, and it's generating the answers for you. All right. Now, again, it's giving me a clear idea. First, we need to know what a crown colony is. So, hey, you can see the difference between that and the other one. All right, you can certainly see the difference. It starts to give you the reference where it's getting the information from, as Mark indicated, and it highlights these there so you can follow suit. So which is a good step up from the others because you don't know where the others get it from. And so that's the idea, one of the things that we have to be careful sorry. Okay, now we have 5 more minutes. Sarah, it's more specific than the unpaid chatbot. Yes, it is, Sarah. It is certainly so. And you notice that it's taking longer because it recognizes it has to take it has to take proper time to do the job that you ask it to do. Um, um, but again, it's grade 4. It's exactly how you want it to be nuanced. You can certainly see it from that standpoint. All right. Um, any questions? Any questions? We'll stop here for questions. There was an activity I placed in the resource guide, but we don't necessarily need to go through that activity. I think at your level, in your school level, you can use it as a discussion. You can see, okay, fine, let's come together. We want to set guidelines. We want to set things. We want to do things in a very clear way so our students are guided. And from that standpoint, Bonnie, go ahead.
Yes, could you hear me?
I can. Yes, I can.
Okay, so I was just curious when I saw Learn More and the citations coming up. I never tried this before, but if we say to include all citations, wouldn't that be a good way to prevent the hallucination? Or at least testing where the information comes from.
Yes.
The question though is, would I get citations on all the different chatbots, or would it be specific to this one?
I would say, Bonnie, that's an excellent question. I would say, even if you ask it to create, follow APA format or cite in-text citation, it can actually give you references that are bogus and fake. So one of the key things is that you should, as the person in charge, is validate if this actually exists, if this article actually exists. Where can I find it? So sometimes you might tell it, give you a DOI, which actually gives you a link to find the article. Sometimes the DOI is a totally different article. And so we recognize the need to always be in the driver's seat. But that's an excellent question. And by the way, ChatGPT does have the affordance for you to add citations because they recognize the need for persons to cite. But it's an ethical standpoint. How do you cite something that you did not in the first place? Tell me where you find it. And you're taking things that may not necessarily belong to you. And so this whole idea of copyright is an issue. And I think acknowledging it is good. Yes, Bonnie, go
What
ahead.
I was looking at is, even if you ask students to do research, this way they don't have to go on their own to see, to validate information or to know the reliability of it. It's an instant way to check the citations, to look, make sure it's reliable sources before they actually use it.
Yes.
So thanks for that.
Yes. And again, according to Professor Sharples, that's a rule. It can be your grammar check. It can be your citation police and all those things and referencing and so forth. It is very, very important that we do that. We have a number of presentations on our YouTube channel. We intend to provide a little bit more sessions. We intend to actually design an asynchronous workshop for teachers next year. And so please subscribe because we certainly intend to give back, because we recognize without doing that, we really want for us as educational leaders to control the narrative and support our teachers in ensuring that they don't go astray and just do things be helter-skelter without that guidance. We need that guidance, especially as you can see. So I'm leaving, if you notice, Bing has been in the background doing this. All right, you notice right now, it's actually doing the script for the it actually sent we'll put it again, Paul. The script, it's actually using Beriton. I know you guys know Beriton and Ryan. These are actual persons, and so it uses real persons, and this is exciting. It's exciting. I'm convinced that we as leaders of learning will continue to control the narrative. We'll continue to support our teachers. We'll continue to ensure our students are the lead in advancing education and taking advantage of education. At least because we know when they leave school, they will be using. In fact, they are using it. Let's be real. They are using it, and so I think one of the things is to really ensure that they are using it in an ethical and a responsible way. We want to drill that in over and over again. Thank you so much. And I want to thank you. I don't know if we have but I'll be happy to get your feedback We will send out a link for this session, and perhaps see how well we can support the ministry in meeting its mandate when it comes to technology advanced learning. If AI uses info already on the internet, how credible is the information? Yes, so there is a thank you, Mark. Mr. Garcia has posted if you can support us, if you can look at that as part of our commitment to continuing improvement. We want to know how we certainly want to see how we can do that. So, Joseph, you're asking a question. Do you want to go ahead and use the mic?
Yes, thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, so we're saying that if AI pulls information from different sources, how credible the information would be,
Thank you. And
knowing that everything is accurate.
right, I appreciate that. And this is where again we say that you are in this driver's seat. We also recognize that again the biasness. It will uh, bias. So if, for example, you ask it to give you examples of effective leaders in academia, whatever, it may necessarily culturally pull things that are gender bias, and so these are real things. So thank you for posing that question. Yes, I think this is where you want to be the person filtering, to ensure that that you are the one making that decision. You are the one indicating or making sense and validating. It's just as if someone did something for you. You have an assistant, and you may want to ask, okay, where did you find this? You want to validate it, which is why I like Bing, because Bing actually tells you where it finds it. Joseph, is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Any additional questions? Thank you so much. I want to thank you for your time and thank you for your commitment. And see you in the forums. I'm accessible by email. You can reach me by email. Certainly, we'll continue to respond there. Okay, I know we had promised to have only 1 hour, and so I will allow you to continue your days, your full day's activities, but certainly we intend to continue to give back as part of our social responsibility from the center to education. And we intend to focus more on teachers, but more in a more asynchronous way. So thank you so much, and do stay in touch. You will be hearing from us in the